Hello, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm having a headphone issue, so
All
is
right,
it
well,
doubly
just
through?
make sure you mute when you're not speaking. We should be okay.
Okay. So I missed going to the Reason rally. I had a few exams here. I'm a student, and a few friends of mine went though, and I think they had pictures taken and everything with Aaron and Thunderfoot. I watched some of the videos that have been posted to YouTube, and I guess for me, like the public image for atheism and secularism and humanism is good since I'm on the team. But as far as like the major media coverage, there was very little, and what was covered was sort of done in a negative light. How do you guys
Yeah.
feel the overall sentiment is progressing? Yeah, I mean, if it should be progressing, I hope it is.
I don't understand how there can be so much vitriol against what we represent. I mean, people that are really embracing their delusion and lashing out violently when that is challenged. Especially when there are so many people that have admitted to me that on some level they know that what they believe isn't. I mean, I had a friend tell me that he is Christian not because he believes it is true, but because that's what he's supposed to believe. And I just tried to wrap my head around that sentiment. That doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know how to reach into this mindset. I don't know why they react the way that they do.
Thunder?
Sorry, I'm not really sure I've got anything to add to that.
Well, I mean, the main reason why I bring that up is because I've recently been getting more involved in some of the efforts by people. A friend of mine was down with there was something in Sarasota, Florida, where someone had blessed some road, some county with some oil, and they went to wash it off. I mean, it was like a year later, and it had rained a few times, so God had already taken care of it. But they went down with some awesome brushes and just did a symbolic thing because
I actually spoke to the person who did that at the convention, and he did seem a perfectly rational, sensible person, and he'd done it in order to get publicity, but he'd made sure that he was going to get the publicity before they did it. So
It's
thumbs up to
symbolic.
him. Sorry?
It's symbolic.
Oh yeah.
So they did something like this. I mean, it might seem a little tangential, but when the Nazis got their crushing defeat at Stalingrad, what they did is they paraded the troops through Moscow, and then afterwards they swept the streets clean. Now, people walking through the streets don't actually they don't make the streets dirty, but the washing was symbolic. Now, if the guy had really been trying to push buttons, he would have, I don't know, engaged in some, Muslim consecration or voodoo consecration of the road. That anyone who now travels down this road will be jinxed unless they carry voodoo talismans or something.
Yeah, I know, but
I suppose the downside to that sort of thing is that it can be made mock of, and it can make atheists look stupid, but, I don't know what you do about that.
well, yeah, I mean, it gets to be, I guess, what my line of thought is being somewhat inspired by Lawrence Krauss on a debate a long time ago, and it doesn't matter when, but he basically said you can't debate someone who's undebatable. I mean, if their position is just that's it, it's over, it's done, and you can throw words at the wall all day long, but that's all you're going to be doing.
I disagree with that actually, in that all people are. There are no people who are completely unresponsive to their environment, and seeing as we have the better arguments, the mere fact that they are exposed to them is sowing the seeds of doubt, putting those little cracks in their defenses that they know that they're there. They have to compartmentalize even more to sustain their beliefs, just having been exposed to these arguments.
Well, let me take that a step further then, Thunder. For example, as you're aware, because I've discussed it with you, I'm in the process of making a video about William Lane Craig and his debating tactics. Now, there's someone who uses the same arguments, the same techniques, the same dishonesty in every single debate that he has. Are you saying that the likes of the late Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and many others should publicly debate him when they know that they're certainly not going to change his mind, and he's going to use the same tactics and arguments that he's always used?
There is a difference here. If you're actually debating someone who is essentially fundamentally dishonest and a snake oil salesman, this is where personality and character actually matter. That if they're being mendacious or deliberately evasive or deliberately dishonest, then it's pointless debating them, unless you're doing it for the show such that everyone else can see what dishonest tactics this guy's using versus the honest and rigorous arguments that you're presenting. But if you're actually doing it to try and persuade someone who is has a track record of being dishonest, then you're just wasting your time. But I would put it more in the used car salesman type thing. It's not that William Lane Craig, he knows what he's doing is dishonest, I think. I don't think he's managed to I think he knows that he is being deliberately misleading in his arguments.
I have no doubt that he does, and he'll say that he's doing it in the name of God, and therefore everything's perfectly acceptable in doing that.
I've got to throw in something here. I did that speech that I mentioned a little while ago that I did at Collin College not too long ago. There was a William Lane Craig supporter there, and he challenged me on a statement that I had made about Craig, about Craig's dishonesty, and I proved that William Lane Craig was lying with full knowledge of his intended deception.
Which lie was that?
This was the one where he said, I think it was the one where he said that every person who fails to accept Christianity does so because of our love of darkness. And apparently we all know that God is real and Jesus exists, and we want to pretend otherwise because we love sin and so on. And I just did a simple poll. I mean, was there anybody in this room that became atheist or rejected Christianity for the reasons that Craig gave? And since he was using an absolute argument, there's no exception. Every person does this. And I said, okay, well, when you make an absolute argument, then all you need is one exception to prove that argument wrong. And I'm going to go several steps further. It's not just that we have one exception. It's not just that we have a room full of exceptions. It's not just that everybody in this room is the exception of the rule. I'll go several steps further and go to the opposite absolute and say that no one ever rejected Christianity for the reason that Craig gave. And Craig obviously knows that. And so what this guy said was, well, yeah, but you only proved that Craig lied once. Again, it doesn't matter that the leaders of their truth are lying. It's just like the kids at the Reason Rally. Well, just because he makes millions of dollars doesn't mean there's no God. Just because he's in prison for fraud doesn't mean that the things that I believe are wrong. And so on.
Thunder.
Yeah, it's the pattern of dishonesty that is usually devastating for credibility. Well, I mean, especially in scientific circles. You get caught falsifying your data or anything like that. There is just, I wouldn't say...
What's happened to Pons and Fleischmann? Whatever happened to their careers?
Exactly. I think they're still employed because they have tenure. But the idea that they would be able to make, and they might be able to publish, but the thing about Pons and Fleischmann is they were essentially wrong. They weren't dishonest. there are people who are dishonest, and you get caught being dishonest, you will really struggle to publish anything again in your life. There is how shall I say, some forgiveness for just being wrong. Pons and Fleischmann made the real cock up in that they went to the press first, which is a sort of cardinal sin. You're at least meant to run it past your peers, and in this case, they weren't really even experts in the field that they were publishing in, which was fusion.
And every time this happens, it's disastrous. I mean, like the girl with the Mono Lake thing, where she went to the press first to talk about how there was... And I can tell
you that she no longer works for U.S. Geological Survey. She's either moved on or been moved on.
Been moved on would be what my preference. And the guys that brought up Ida and made the huge, media circus out of that. We've all done videos about how this is not how science operates. This is not about sensationalism. We are supposed to be dispassionate and therefore objective.
Well, right, but the same thing happened, or a similar thing happened at Opera with the neutrinos, and
No, sorry, you're talking about the recent.
Yes.
Yeah, but I disagree with that actually, because they
were just wrong.
They were wrong, but they went public saying,
yeah,
we don't believe this. We think we've got something wrong, but this is what we've found. I thought that was incredibly honest of them.
Yes, and another point to make on this, I mean, we often hear about Nebraska Man, right, and Piltdown Man. Well, Piltdown Man was a fraud. We all know that. Nebraska Man, however, was not. Nebraska Man was somebody that had found a badly worn tooth, and he thought that it looked rather like a human tooth, and so he said unwisely that he believed that it was a human tooth. No one in the scientific community accepted that explanation. Nobody. And that's the thing that, of course, the creationists always, blow this out of proportion. What happened was that this guy produced this tooth. He said it was human, and absolutely everybody in the scientific community said, we are not going to buy it until you produce more evidence in support of that. And the guy searched for 5 years. And after 5 years, he came forward and said, you know what? You're right. I can't find anything to support this, and I'm going to have to concede that this is apparently this is a pig's tooth, and it was just badly worn into an ape-like shape. That's honest. And it's the same guy, ironically, the same guy that produced the Nebraska Man was also enormously skeptical initially and forever. He never, ever accepted the Piltdown Man. When he got the fossil findings for Piltdown Man, and he was supposed to display it at the American Museum of Natural History, he labeled it as a mixture of human and ape fossils. Never bought it at all. So now think about it. This is the same guy that promoted Nebraska Man, never believed Piltdown Man, and this is a refutation of two of the core creationist arguments that allege fraud in anthropology.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I'm more curious about is, so the guy comes out with the Nebraska Man. There was 5 years there. 5 years there. The public's perception. I mean, when and like it's to jump over to the CERN or the Opera thing. The public. I'm not so really like wondering about the people in the business, like the scientists and the people that they come out with some honest. What they think is some honest results, and they think that, oh, these neutrinos, they're faster than photons. But that's not right. A lot of us didn't think that, or a lot of people don't think that in the science and engineering communities. But what about the public as a whole? Like, my sister asked me, she said, is Einstein wrong or whatever, and she's not in science. She does other things. And it just seems like that's a real concern. How
it is, and I'm going to move on, but your audio is really bad for me, and I think other people as well. But we'll address that question. I'm just going to remove you for now. But thank you very much indeed for the call.
Thank you. Let me just briefly. So I've got this. It's Wolf Simon left the U.S. Geological Survey in May 2011 to pursue her research elsewhere. Wolf Simon claims that she did not leave voluntarily, but was effectively evicted from the U.S. Geological Survey group. And I would say with good cause. And I still, to this day, have no idea what was going through NASA's mind, because this was just so grotesquely premature that any moderately competent scientist would have said, this is not the right time to do it. So what the hell was NASA doing, pimping this?
I don't know, but the one thing that I want to observe is this, that these frauds eventually were exposed by scientists. When have you seen a theist say, yes, I was wrong about that? I'll use just one example. In one of Venom Fang X's first videos, which formed the content of your very first Why Do People Laugh at Creationist videos, he made 3 claims. The Grand Canyon was formed in 5 minutes. The moon fits perfectly over the sun in an eclipse. And a third one, there's not one drop of water in the whole universe except on Earth. All of those utterly debunked. When have you heard Venom say, oh, actually, yeah, I got that wrong. I won't use that argument again. I apologize.
Or more to
you
the point,
don't get this from theists.
And I regret now, having not brought this up, that Eric Hovind, now he's deserted every single one of Daddy's arguments. Is he now going to actually just publish a retraction? Oh, by the way, everything that my daddy told all those thousands of people was wrong. Or is he actually going to try and defend some of these demonstrably wrong claims that, that the convicted fraudster, Kent Hovind, made to all these people, and who gave him well, look, he was put in jail for 10 years for not paying, I think it was the best part of $1 million in tax. So they pulled in millions of dollars off these people for essentially telling them demonstrable falsehoods. Now, this is the thing. If they were honest, then there is some quarter to be had in arguing with them. But I think the point that you hit on is quite right. These people don't actually really fundamentally care about the truth.
Yeah, now I will, and I have. When the Ida story came out, I reacted immediately. I did not wait to see other scientists come forward and say that this wasn't the appropriate angle to take. I made a video immediately, and I think somebody had told me that somebody else had said something prior to that, but I think that my reaction to Ida was the very first objection from an evolutionary perspective of the sensationalization of that story. And then Wildwood Claire beat me to the punch when she did the same thing, objecting to the sensationalism that was being done in the Mono Lake thing, which was just a travesty again. I completely support the scientific method and their normal stance of anything that is controversial generally is analyzed 4 or 5 years before it goes public. I mean, practically everything that you read, if you read in a regular newspaper and they say scientists have discovered, you will read into the story that they actually discovered this 5 years ago, and that they want to give some time for everybody to analyze and make sure this is right before they turn it over to the press. And that's wise. When Steven Zerkis bought that fossil, and I'm sorry that Steven Zerkis was fooled by that fossil. I've talked to the man. I liked him, and I liked their artwork. I thought that he was a wonderful paleo artist. It's so unfortunate that he invested so much money into this fraud, and I understand why he reacted the way he did in wanting to promote it. He didn't want to think that he'd invested $80,000 into such a piss-poor investment. But when he was fooled by a fraudulent fossil, and he did not accept, when he had a handful of scientists examine it, and all of them, every one of them told him, this isn't genuine. This looks like it was been pieced together. Nobody would endorse it. Every scientist that had examined it had warned him not to go further with it, and yet he took it to National Geographic. This is not the way that you perform science. This is just wrong. And yet, Archaeoraptor, you have a blatant liar like Kirk Cameron who says that they fooled the entire scientific community. No, you can't produce one scientist that examined that didn't say, I'm not putting my name on this. They all argued that this was false.
And one thing again that came out of your discussion with these two people at DC, when they were accused of lying, no, you accused Kirk Cameron of lying, and the response was, well, we've all lied. We live in a fallen creation.